Okay, we're doing a Modern Horizons tier list for the current metagame. I think I've played enough to actually judge the format now, where my initial reaction was Urza Saga was too much, and now it's drastically changed as to my perspective on that. So we have S, A, B, C, D tier, S being the best decks in the format that you should be playing if you want to win. A, they're still strong, but they don't line up as well against the field as the S decks, where it can win a tournament, you'll be happy with it, but it's not just like on the brink of just being way above the rest of the format. B tier, where you go to have fun, maybe win a couple games, you're happy with a 2-2, maybe you snipe a 3-1 record. Tier C is I am here with a modern deck that I have. I love this archetype. If I win, I win. If I lose, I'm okay with that. Tier D is you're just trolling and memeing the whole format, and by some miracle you win. Otherwise, you expect to lose. Okay. S tier. Nope. Let's just start with the first deck. Glimpse of Tomorrow. Glimpse of Tomorrow is where you try to flip over your deck. It's the new Living End type deck. You try to cast a Cascade effect, and then it'll flip your permanents, and you'll hit Goblin Dark Dwellers, which will cast it from the graveyard again, and you attempt to go casting it 2-3 times until you flip your deck over and you swing for lethal with a bunch of dragons. I honestly think it's actually a pretty good deck. You have a lot of interaction. You grind very well. It's a combo kill. It's actually pretty consistent. And so you just, I think it is getting better as time goes on, as people round out the list. The initial ones were awful, but I do think it's a solid deck that can win matches. Okay, Sprite Dragon. Let's go with this one being, is it Sprite Dragon? With a variance without Delver, where your fourth threat after Darcy, Murktide Regent, and Monkey is 2-4 Sprite Dragons. I think it is a very strong deck. I think it runs over a large portion of the format. It's very well geared to beat it. Any deck it comes up against. I think these is it being the best aggro mid range deck in the format at the moment. Meme folk. Okay. Should I just leave it down here? I don't think it's. I think it's tier C. I don't think it's you're trolling if you're playing Merfolk. I think it can win games. I think it is okay. I don't think it's ever gonna win a GP. You know, like miracles happen, the stars align. I think it can win a challenge, but I don't think it's consistent and powerful enough. I do think it is actually viable to be played now with the new additions that it got. The creature that makes things in the islands really buffed up the Merfolk deck, and the God gives it draw, which it did not have before. Not having draw was what made it awful to play, but getting that draw effect is big. Okay, Jund. Oh boy. Are we being honest, or are we just memeing? Because everyone knows Jund's awful in the format, but with Ragavan, if you're playing traditional Boomer Jund, it's tier D. If you're playing modern age like Ragavan type esque, I think it's like tier B at best. But for Boomer Jund with like Lily, Bob, Tarmogoyf, maybe Ren and Six, I think it's tier D. Every other deck just runs you over. Like the Izzet deck has 2 mana divination, has bigger threats. You can't really deal with Murktide very well. You're terrible against the combo decks because they're just one card top deck and win. Yeah, so Boomer Jund I think is awful. I think the new iterations of Jund with like Monkey and stuff could maybe be tier B, but probably tier C. Okay, Mill. Okay, D tier. You lose to a sideboard card. I know it's like, but I have surgical, yada yada. But like, majority of the time, you get blown out, and they don't even have to draw it. So Mill is like in between C and D. If people don't come prepared, it can snipe a tournament. That is its saving grace. but it's very easy to come prepared and make sure Mill just doesn't win a match or has an awful win rate. Okay, this one I am not sure. The green white Heliod deck. I don't know actually. I haven't seen it much at all anymore. Heliod in paper, I think would probably be A tier on Moto. So this is Moto tier. I think in paper, or sorry, online, I think it probably is B tier. Not being able to go all the way up. I don't know. I don't think it lines up with the format well anymore. I think Counterspell really taxes it. I think the removal. I think the aggro decks are better than it, and playing against Burn in the meta, I think it's really off it. It could be A tier, but it was one of the best decks in the previous format. But I think it struggles against the combo, and it struggles against stuff like Enchantress. Um, I think it being weak to counterspell is what makes it really rough, and then they just play creature together. But I'm not sure if it's B. I think it's between A and B. Maybe leaning to A. If it was paper, it'd be much easier to rank. But because it's online and you're playing a much worse version of the deck because you don't get infinite life as easy, I think it's a very hard one to place. I think we could probably keep it at 8. Let's go A because it doesn't feel right putting it in B because no one wants to play the old deck. But I do think it's still strong. It has the right pieces. Okay, Delver, is it prowess? Okay, it's definitely not A tier. I'm gonna put it C. Here's why. Okay, it's confirmation bias, but I played a league yesterday of Delver, is it prowess? With Delver in my deck, I didn't win a single game. 0% win rate. When I boarded him out in 3 matches, all 6 times I won. I think it neuters the deck of Visit Prowess. I think it is a terrible draw. I think it's terrible turn one play and turn two and so on. Um, I think it gets carried by the rest of the deck that it's tier C over tier D. That if you just don't draw a Delver, your deck is like AS tier. But yeah, no, Delver is awful. But like in comparison, it's not D tier. It's definitely better because the other pieces are so strong that it carries it. Okay, for Stoneforge, we're gonna go Grief Blade. It is white black sewer, and you try to use grief to get ahead with ephemerate. I think it's probably tier C. I think it's hard between tier B and C, but I don't see it lining up with the rest of the format well enough to be tier B. The inconsistency of having to have grief or solitude with the ephemerate. You have very strong cards, but then Stoneforge just dying to bolts. Being weak to bolt, I think, is a big weakness of the deck. And trying to go long against decks that have 2 mana divination really puts it in a struggle. And also, I don't think it lines up very well against graveyard strategies at the moment. I know you can change it around, but I don't think it's consistent enough or strong enough. I think it's a very good deck. I just don't think it's as amazing as the rest of the format can be. Elves. Ugh. So like, if Merfolk's in tier C, I don't know if I can put elves in tier D is the issue. But you just try to go fast. E for elf tier. Let's go tier D because at least with Merfolk you have interaction. But against elves, if you just lose to one board wipe, like there's no coming back. You just hope to go hard, go fast, and all in every single time because you can't afford not to all in. And so you lose against combo, you lose against Anger Gods. We'll go with tier D. I'm sorry, elves players. Hammer time. Hammer Time, I think, is actually A tier. I think it's got very good pieces. Um, I think with Lava Dart in the format and it being more of a kill the 1-1 format and hate the artifact format, I don't think that it is S tier, but I think it is one of the best decks in the format to be playing right now. I think it might be a little bit underrepresented. I don't get how male and gender in the same tiers. They're both garbage. Next question. Um, Time Warp. This is probably one of the better combo decks of the format. You're very consistent. You have good interaction. Counterspell is a big upgrade. You get to play Ren 6, which can carry games on its own. Ren 6 is very good against the whole format at the moment. Essentially, you try to swing with a dragon and then Time Warp loop over and over. I think it's a solid combo deck. I think people interact with it well. Um, I don't think it has the best removal, but with Prismatic Strands is a very, very big upgrade for the deck. Okay, next up, Goblins. Okay, D tier. I There's too much interaction for two twos and one ones at the moment that they don't have the resilience, and then the combo isn't strong enough. Like two card combo, but it dies to every single person in this format has removal because of Ragavan. Ragavan is making it so you have to have early answers. So people are playing Unholy Heat. Do you actually put Merfolk above D tier? I think because they have Forced Negation, it works out. I think like Merfolk can Stars Align actually perform. I like it's better than goblins, better than elves, except humans. I think Merfolk's fine, honestly. Like I think the 3/5 draw has really really helped the deck. Okay, Adnaz. I have not played with Adnaz. I have not played against Adnaz enough. I don't know if I can put it in B tier, but it's because I don't have enough experience with it. So I feel comfortable putting it in C tier. Elves is better than Merfolk. Elves is not better than Merfolk. Elves has no interaction and dies any board wipe. At least Merfolk you can have a spell pierce. Oh, also being able to kill Urza Saga is what makes it actually playable. Is like the fact that you have very very strong Saga matchups. Okay, Adnaz. I think it's C tier. I think it's still a good deck. I don't think it's D tier. I think it still can win. It sucks that it can't as easily one turn kill without the same spirit guides, but Profane Tutor has really helped it be more consistent for that turn 4. Because turn 2, you exile, your Profane Tutor comes off turn 4, and so does your 0 mana, 3 mana artifact. Okay, Hardened Scales. Initially, it came out strong, but I think with people realizing that Prismatic Strands is a really strong card, I think that Hardened Scales is sadly C. I think it could have been B, but I think with the format warping more lava darts, more lightning bolts, and prismatic strand. I think prismatic strands being a very popular removal spell has made hardened scales a lot worse. Amulet, our first S tier. Amulet has been again pushed up to the top with Urza Saga. Very consistent. It is insane that you get a tutor the namesake of the deck, or you can go get mapped to freaking get Teleria West, or you just win with Urza Saga on its own, and then you can bounce your Saga at 2 counters. Like it's actually insane how much it does. It's very consistent, very fast, hard to deal with. Canisters been running through the breaches to deal with Blood Moons. I think Amulet is one of the best decks in the format to be playing right now, by far. Asmo. I think iterations of Asmo are S tier. They may not be the best against every deck, but I do think against the entire format, they line up very well. I think the blue red Asmo has been very consistent and very strong. People have been putting up a lot of results and winning challenges with it. It is just super quick, very efficient. Creature decks line up very, very poorly against it. It is very resilient. I'm not talking about the Hogak one. I'm talking about the blue red Thought Monitor Urza one. And I think that deck is S tier right now. The Hogak iteration of it, I think, is C tier, maybe even meme tier. It is such a strong type of deck, but I think with the consistency of Finale, it's fine to be playing. It lines up well against Lost to the format. You get Thoughtseize. I think there's a big gap in skill cap and what the deck's able to do between the blue red version and the salt type iteration. Lantern. Ooh. Ooh, Lantern is a hard one to place. I think Lantern is very strong right now. I think it is very easy to adjust against, but I do think it is a very, very strong deck in the format. It gets wrecked by Affinity Hate. All like I beat Tron multiple times. I beat the Hate multiple times. I beat Shatterstorm. I think because of that, A tier Prismatic Ending is a nightmare card. I think it's B. I think because of the so much hate, it can never be A or above. But I think it is better than these decks. It's like in the middle where people don't really care enough about it to hate out. But I do believe it is strong enough to be in the B tier. I think it is very consistent. You look at Angel Luffa putting up a lot of results again. Urza Saga really buffed it up, being able to tutor again. It is very very beatable. Don't get me wrong, but I think the strength wise and the consistency is yeah, better Merfolk. Yeah, that's better than Merfolk. Equal or worse than Jund, and then like we have these where we line them up. Ooh, Rhinos. Oh man. Okay, now it's okay. It's between A and B tier. Rhinos. It's three. It's turn three. Play freaking a 10-10. That's what this is. Instant speed. I think Living End is better than Rhinos, and I don't think Living End's S tier. So I think we'll go with B. Yeah. I think we'll go with B because I don't think Living End is S tier. I think Living End is a solid A tier, and I think Rhinos is worse than the Living End iteration. It is very strong. It it's quite easily hated out, but people don't really hate it out. They don't really care enough. It's a really strong, consistent deck. You have a lot of options for it. Tron. I think Tron is effing awful right now in the current metagame. Absolute doo doo. Everybody seems to be fascinated. Everybody seems to have answers. Everyone in the mother has land hate. Vindicate's in the format that just completely wiped them off the face of the earth. So yeah, Tron F tier. Okay, what do we? Where we? What kind of shadow? I think we're gonna go with Rakdos Shadow. Let's go with Rakdos Shadow. I think that is the best iteration of Shadow right now. Do I think here's the two differences we would have to make. Rakdos midrange, Rakdos Shadow. I think Rakdos midrange is better than Rakdos Shadow at the moment. I'd probably put if I could Rakdos midrange at A and then Rakdos Shadow at B. I think it's very strong, very consistent. Doesn't have Shadow. Yeah. That's but I don't think I have a Shadow or a mid range variant down here. Like we need the I need the black dude. I need that one. So okay, we'll go with Rakdos Shadow being B tier. I don't think it's very over the top. I think it still has a lot of answers to it. I think it's still a good deck, but I think there's better iterations that run DRC and Monkey than Rakdos Shadow. Soul Herder. Let's put this down here. Put this down here on D tier. 3 mana to play 1/1 that dies to the whole format. Uh, Everything goes under you. Why wouldn't Rakdos Shadow run DRC and Monkey? I'm saying the other decks run DRC and Monkey better than it. Okay, Enchantress. I've tried to make Enchantress work so many times. It can win games, but like it doesn't have enough. I think right now. I think the format is just has too many good answers for it. I think it's a playable deck, but I don't think it's amazing. In fact, also D tier. Everyone's prepping to kill monkeys, and then you're playing a worse one drop. So I think Infect is very poor, and it dies to Ren 6. Lines up terribly with the whole format. Storm. I think Storm has been bad for a long time, and I don't think that's changed. Hand hate ruins you. One drop creatures ruin you. You don't deal well with the aggro in the format. Remand doesn't cut it anymore. Not a big fan. The 5 color elemental deck. I have not played it. I assume it's still slow and not great. Part of me is tempted to put it in C tier, but that would be a disgrace to all these actual C tier decks. So we're gonna put elementals in tier D. You're just too slow. Like, sure you can grind, but you're too slow. Martyr. Oh my god. How did Martyr get in here? A D tier. I don't want to go with a red greenscape shift. Let's go with 4 color. I think 4 color's a solid C tier. The problem is everything gets under you. That's the problem with scape shift. But I do think it still has its place and it still interacts. Everything is D. It's just because like these decks are so much worse than the ones above it, right? Okay, Living End. The Force of Negation Living End. I think that deck is absolutely insane. I think it's bonkers. It sucks that Graveyard Hate really hurts it, but it has so many free games. It has so many free wins with the blue Living End. I think this is probably the closest deck to S tier, honestly, is the blue Living End. Niv Mizzet. Does the S stand for anything? I don't actually know what S tier stands for. I just know that it's like above all else. Super? Tier Supreme? Tier Super? Super tier. Okay, let's go with super tier. Niv Mizzet. Niv. Wow. Okay, Niv's hard. Niv is. I don't know where to place Niv. I have not seen much Niv at all anymore. Niv struggles against grinding out the 2 decks. It can't beat Amulet. I don't think it has a good Is It matchup. I'm biased too, right? I think Niv has gotten a lot worse. Like, no one plays it. The problem is Monkey's too fast. You have to draw your Ren 6. You're just too slow. I want to put it higher, but I think it's probably C tier. But I'm very biased to put it. It does not belong in B tier. But I can't put it in D. It's so much better than these decks. It is a very hard one to pick. Okay, Ragavan. What type of iteration of Ragavan are we doing for this one? Okay, yeah, whatever it is, Rakdos Monkey I think is phenomenal. You just have the best things in the format. You answer graveyard, you answer combo, you're aggressive, you have phenomenal threats. You line up amazingly against the format. I think Rakdos mid range is phenomenal. I think it is better than uh, the other variants. Is it bannable? Probably not. I think give it like 2 years, and enough people will complain and yada yada yada. Boggles. Can, it's below D tier, you know? It's on the bottom. Nothing needs to be said about Boggles. People with half a brain know. Add F tier for Boggles. If you could throw a monkey in Boggles, then it'd be D tier, you know? Okay, Eldrazi Tron. Fudge. I think Eldrazi Tron's probably C tier. I don't think it's D tier. I think it's mildly playable. I think it's mildly playable. Actually, no. It lines. Oh, it has Chalice, and that's it. B, no. It's not above. It's not B or above. It's like it's good against 1 drops, but it still loses so badly. For the prelim this week, I mean, like anyone can get lucky, right? I think it's better than all the D tier decks. All's Dust is a house. Like All's Dust, that like saving grace. I don't think it's a good deck. I think it's the very bottom of C tier, but I think it's above D tier. Ooh, okay. There's so many different variants of Thought Monitor. Let's go with Affinity. Affinity or the blue white iteration. Let's go with blue white Urza because I think that deck is going to stay around. The blue white Urza deck with Thought Monitor. I think that deck is probably that deck is very good. Probably bottom is probably top of C tier. I'd say with Esper Sentinel. I think there's better iterations of it, but the blue white deck that we 5 0 with, I think it's the top of C tier. You know which one I'm talking about? The Urza one. You have like dispatches. I think it's a solid so-so deck. It's just nothing flashy is the issue. Oh no, this is the mid range one. I think the Affinity one would probably be tier B. It felt really good. Humans. Okay, we'll put it in C. If Merfolk's in C, humans belongs in C. It has good interaction, has Kataki, fine in the format. The 5 color Draco Tribal Flames deck. C tier. It has big fatties, 2 mana 5/5s, a lot of value town. Draco, I don't think it's great, but I think it's above the old meta game of decks. Okay, spirits. You belong down here indeed. Spirits is so effing bad. Okay, red, green, pillage. The more decks we add, the clear. Okay, fine. Yeah, Merfolk. Yeah, like Merfolk is not in these decks. Reign of Power. Red, green, Ponza. I think having Ren and 6 and having Artifact main destruction is very strong, and being a Blood Moon deck, I'm okay with it being C. Why tomorrow is B? I think tomorrow is actually very strong and consistent. Like it just you still game ones, and then you just consistently have a really good combo deck. Neither is Etron. Yeah. The more we think about it, I think Etron's awful. I was trying to be nice, but I think Etron's really, really bad at the moment. Like I played against it, and for once I was like, "This is a joke." All the new cards just make it feel horrible. Like you can just easily destroy all the artifacts now. You don't care about Karn. The threats are a joke. So let's go with that. 4 color Scape Shift is A's at least. No, 4 color Scape Shift is like medium at best. Is it prowess? Probably top 2 deck in the format, but definitely S tier. You have the best, some of the best threats. You're quick. You have monkey. You have insane 1 drops. You have insane draw spells. You have good answers to everything. People have to respond to you. You ask the questions. They have to have the answers. But phenomenal counters. Murktide is a freaking 8/8. This like phenomenal deck. I think this is Putrid Imp, but I think it's supposed to be Dredge. So let's say this is Dredge. They got the wrong thumbnail. Dredge is C tier. So this is supposed to be Dredge, okay? So for Dredge, I think we put it at the bottom of the barrel. I don't think it's that great. I think it's supposed to be Stinkweed Imp, but they didn't know the pictures. Let's go with Esper Control. I think Esper is fine at B tier. I think it has a lot of good answers to the format. Blue White is A. Let's go with Esper because I've actually played Esper against the format. I think you have Prismatic Stranding is phenomenal. Um, I don't know. You have a lot of clean answers now to everything. Kai's Guile I think makes it really against the format. Yawgmoth. Definitely not B, probably in C. I think Yogg is fine. Literally just because you block Monkey amazingly. I think it's better than all these decks. I think Yogg is actually fine. Yeah, I think I am happy with this format. Yogg is not B tier. Yogg is definitely not B tier. Any other questions about anything, you guys? Pretty solid with all these. If you guys have any quarrels with my tier list, be sure to comment, let me know. How is Glimpse B tier? Looks super bad to me. The new iterations of Glimpse, I think, are very, very strong. The initial ones were terrible, but the combo ones that just you cast one Glimpse and you win, I think those iterations are very, very strong right now. What is this S tier Ragavan deck? Rakdos midrange. Rakdos midrange, is it prowess, blue red Asmo, and then Amulet Titan? Turns. I think turns is fine, honestly. But the more like look at this list, I think it's probably down in C. I think I think that's it. Sewer, Adnaz, Hardened Scales, Red Black Midrange isn't the strongest Ragvan deck. Yeah, I agree. I honestly do believe that Red Black Midrange is stronger than Red Black Shadow. Why is Living End above Rhinos? The blue iteration of Living End, I think, is far better than the Rhino deck. They cast Rhinos, you can still beat them. The other one cast Living End, you still lose. Hammer Time, I think, is up there. The iteration with Sprite Dragon, I think, is good, but I think the other simple iterations of Blue Red are better. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments.